Okay, well, as we draw the summit to a close, I just wanted to pop in and just do another session with you. And what I had prepared to do, I've made some changes around. Over the last few weeks, I've been listening to a couple of books, and I actually like to read. However, I like to get out and walk, and when I'm walking, I find using a book that's being read to me is a lot, better way of getting it done. Otherwise, I don't have the time to sit down, or make the time to sit down and do it. And what I came across was an amazing book called The Resilience Project by Hugh Van Cuylenburg, an amazing Aussie. And he had that book, and he's got another book called Let Go. And both of those were just amazing. And Let Go was written post-COVID, or post us going into lockdown, etc. Just recently, he wrote that. And for me, I wanted to talk about controlling our behavior, and I'm going to do that. And I want to talk about things like resilience. And reading this book made me rethink some of the things that I was doing around that as well. And I'm not going to steal his thunder too much. I really encourage you, get a hold of this book, The Resilience Project, and the other one, I think I've got it here. This is it. Let Go. A couple of great books by Hugh. And it is a combination of his story and what he went through with his sister and, people in his cricket club and whatever. So it's real live stories around resilience and how he was able to build up resilience, and particularly in Let Go, how he was able to let go of things. And for me, that's what struck me. And I wanted to share a little bit of it with you in what I'm going to do in this closing keynote. And because I'm never going to stop learning. I don't know it all. I don't ever want to know it all. And I believe you're green and growing, or you're ripe and rotting. So I want to be a continual learner. So made me change what I was going to do, and that's okay, because we're here to serve you. And I really hope that you've got a lot out of this summit so far. And I just want to encourage you that the learnings will keep coming. So over the days coming, things will pop up. Things that you've heard from the speakers will be remembered. And as you look at them through the lens of the context you're in at that particular time, you're going to get new insights as well. So resilience is an important topic. It's one that is a little bit misunderstood and sometimes is taught in a way which is not very supportive and helpful. And I wanted to just use this simple analogy and process that Hugh taught me in this book to just, give us a little bit of a tweak and adjustment around that. You see, resilience is not about hardening up, and it's not about toughing it out. It's not about sticking to it and grit and all these things, because that, just like managing your emotions and suppressing them and ignoring them, it's not good for us as human beings, because things happen. Things will continue to happen, and we need to be able to navigate through that. You see, resilience is more about how can I set myself up so that going through situations have less of an effect on me than they could, and so that it actually propels me forward. A good friend of mine, Sam Cawthorn, he calls it, instead of bouncing back, he calls it bouncing forward. So what I want you to do is look at the last couple of years of COVID, or look at just this last year gone and what you've experienced, and have a look at how could you use that to bounce forward. How could you use the learnings to bounce forward? I'm going to talk about how we can do that as well. But just coming back to Hugh's book before I get into what I wanted to talk about. And that's why I've used a bit of a play on words with the name of what I'm doing here, is all about finding gems. So where does that come from? So he talks about in his book the three things that help to build resilience, and it's an acronym GEM, G-E-M. So the first thing is gratitude, the second thing is empathy, and the third thing is mindfulness. So I just want to quickly talk about that before I get into what it was that I was going to give you anyway, and that will give you a platform that I can add to. And as I said, it really got me thinking around this, and I loved it. And I loved how he, utilized the stories, but then also gave practical steps. And so let's start with gratitude. Sometimes when we're going through things, and by the way, that's a good thing to do, is go through them rather than, stop. Sometimes people say to me, oh, I'm going through hell at the moment. I go, hey, that's okay. Just make sure you don't stop and let's come through it together. But sometimes when we go through things, we have a tendency to look at the negative side of things only. Oh, this is happening to me. And, all these challenges, and we get stuck in that negative. And when we're stuck in that negative and our thinking is going a certain way, then obviously navigating our emotions could tend to spiral down into that negative experience. So the emotions, as I said right up front this morning, they're not positive or negative, but the experience, the behavior that comes out of us navigating them can be either positive or negative. So when we're just, dwelling on what's going wrong, that's not setting us up to be able to get the best out of what it is that we're going through at any part of our life, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. So what is gratitude? Gratitude is simply being grateful for what you have rather than being sad and feeling like you're missing out or less than for what you don't have. In a world where we are continually comparing ourselves to others, in a world that is lived out on social media, where people put their best day up for you to have a look at. And for a lot of people then, with a low self-worth, a low personal power, compare their best self to how they're going through what they're going through right now. And therefore, that comparison can create some negative feelings about self. So being, grateful for what you do have. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to just close your eyes. And I want you to tell me in the chat, when in a moment, you can't do both together. I don't want you to close your eyes and try and chat. That's a little bit challenging. But I want you to think about, just for a moment, what are you grateful for right now? For me, I'm very grateful to have the privilege to be here talking to you today, to have an amazing wife, to have great kids, and to, be able to experience the things that I experience, to have my health, and all those things. So what is it that you're grateful for? Just have a little bit of a think about that. When you're ready, if you want, you can drop that in the chat. I'd love to hear. I'm not going to read them all out now because I'm, not going to be doing two things at once, but I'd really love to see, what are you grateful for? And as you're writing down these things, as you're contemplating these things that you're grateful for, I want you to just notice the experience that has, or the effect that has on how you feel. So no matter what you're going through right now in the world, and it's not about what others are going through and in comparison to that, it's your world. What you're going through is your situation. But how does it feel as you feel grateful? It's like, someone taught me years ago, and they used this little trick on me. They said, I want you to put a biggest, smile on your face that you ever had. And you can do this right now, along with me. Put this big smile on your face and go, now I want you to feel sad. And it's physically, not possible to be able to do that, because you've set yourself up to experience, some positive feeling. And it's the same with the gratitude. Looking at what you're grateful for can really help you to have your mindset where it needs to be to get the most and the best out of your day. So that was the first thing, gratitude. What are you grateful for? And just a little caveat to go along with that is what we can do sometimes when we do that, I know I've done this, is when we're grateful for things that we have, is being mindful and careful, though, of not feeling guilty or shameful around the fact that others don't have that. So I want you to focus this on you and be okay with that, right? Because the second part of the gem is the E, and that's empathy. And the whole world could do with a lot more empathy right now, in my opinion. You know, and I want to help us to have an understanding of what empathy is. And empathy is one of the key competencies of social intelligence and social awareness in particular. And for us to understand what empathy is, we have to firstly understand what it's not. So if we look at a continuum and if we look at what people normally talk about with these things, we've got on one hand apathy. And apathy says, I don't care at all. You know, I've got no concern about this, no care. I'm being apathetic around it. And then on the other side, we've got sympathy or being sympathetic. So apathetic says, I don't care. Sympathetic says, I feel sorry. So empathy is neither of those two things. Empathy is sort of in the middle of those two things. And empathy is at least starting to want to understand how other people might be feeling and what they might be experiencing, and wanting to have and being curious and having a desire to, you know, try and understand and try and look through the lens that you're looking through. One of the biggest reasons why there's so much conflict, particularly on places like social media, is that people look only through their own lens, only through their own agenda. And empathy says, I really want to understand it from your perspective. And it's like walking a mile in someone else's shoes. It's about looking through their lens. And to do that, obviously, we need to be able to understand what their lens is. And what that creates then is an opportunity to ask questions rather than make statements. So by asking questions to clarify and to get more understanding, then you have communication. Rather than, no, what that person's saying is rubbing against what I believe, therefore I'll speak my mind. That's where the communication can fall apart. So empathy says, I've got concern for you. I want to know what you're going through. Please help me to understand. So how can we use that in every day? Well, simply by asking questions, simply by pausing. And I'm going to help you with a strategy to do that with the content that I actually want to do originally talk about in a moment. So by pausing and going, you know what, before I respond, before I get involved in this any further, let me get some more information. So it's simply a matter of going, hey, I would really love to understand more about that. You know, can you help me understand why you think that way or why you feel that way, or, you know, something like that. So just by doing that alone, it says to the other person a number of things. Firstly, it says that you value them. Secondly, it says that you value their opinion. And thirdly, it shows that you are open and teachable and humble enough to be able to, you know, see other perspectives as well. I came to the conclusion a long time ago that it's okay for people to have different opinions. And just because I have an opinion that's different to yours, it doesn't make you or me wrong. It's an opinion. It's a perception. And perception is definitely reality. I was on a conference, at a conference on the Gold Coast last week. And one of the speakers, and if I like to come away with at least one thing from each speaker, but also from an entire conference. There's one thing that really stuck in my mind. And it was one slide that said, strong opinions lightly held. See, what we do a lot of times is we have a strong opinion about something, which is great. We want to believe in things and we want to have passion, and that's great, but we hold on to it tight. And what we then have is when someone says something that's different to mine, and you'll notice my fist there, I'm not punching at you, but what I'm doing is I'm clenching it because I'm holding on to my opinion. Because my opinion is based on my values. My opinion says that this is who I am and this is what I believe. So at the end of the day, if you're attacking my opinion, you're attacking me. So we hold on to it. Instead of having that opinion, but being open to hear another perspective. Hey, as I said right up the front, I'm a work in progress and all this stuff. And for me, this is something that took a number of years for me to even consider. So when we have empathy for others, we will loosen that grasp on the opinion and go, okay, let me hear it from your perspective. Then we have the opportunity to learn from their perspective and then to understand why it is that they think and feel and act that way. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to agree with them. It doesn't mean we have to agree with everything, but what it does is it allows us to communicate in a totally different way. So empathy, that's the E. And then the M in the gem is mindfulness. And being mindful of the moment. Remember, I said this morning that social and emotional intelligence is the ability to be aware of your emotions and the emotions of others in that moment. And to be able to be in that moment and be present, we need to learn how to be mindful. You know, whether you're doing meditation or whether you're, just focusing on your breathing or whatever you're doing, there's so many things that you can do. And Shiri talked about that in her session, to be more mindful and just, concentrate on your breathing and be more mindful and be present in the moment. And when we're more mindful, we're able to have more empathy. When we're more mindful, we're able to have thoughts of gratitude. So, as I said, this is all, from Hugh Van Cuylenberg's book, and it's stuff that I knew, but I just really love the way that he put it together. So to be more resilient, it's, a great way to do that is to practice that gem that we just talked about, to bring the gems back into your life of gratitude, empathy, and mindfulness. So what I wanted to do, just to finish this off, so I want to make sure that we have a practical strategy that you can run, something that you can take away from me in this session and utilize it. Now, I've just given you those three, and you can certainly do that. You can sit down and work out what you're grateful for. Some people like to have a gratitude journal. And, one of the greatest things to do is the first thoughts that come to your mind in the morning is not what's going on my social media or, my emails. It could be, what am I grateful for? Now, for me, the first thing is I woke up. There's another day that I get to live on this beautiful planet. That's a good thought, right? And then to look over and see the people that you love and, to start your day with being grateful. And indeed, being grateful about the good things of yourself as well. And that takes a little bit more effort for some because of, that self-worth that's been eroded away. But starting your day with gratitude, ending your day with gratitude, instead of going to bed at night thinking about all the things that you don't have or things that have gone wrong, which then you ruminate on and it ruins your sleep, is just to go to bed going, hey, what am I grateful for that I took out of today? Where was I able to serve or whatever it is? But, gratitude is fantastic. Empathy is not just for others, by the way. Empathy is for you. That inner dialogue that goes on, that self-talk is vitally important in building resilience and making that healthy. And mindfulness slows the brain down. All right. Sometimes my brain is going all over the place. And, when things are big, they can seem a lot more challenging than what they really are. When, your brain's just getting bombarded with all the possibilities of the bad things that are there. But being more mindful and being able to shut out all the noise and just focus and be present on the moment is really, really important. So we've talked about a number of things today, and I wanted to talk about how do we do the last bit of what I said in navigating emotions. So, I said that we don't want to manage the emotion. We want to manage the response to the emotion. And to do that, we want to be able to manage the thinking and the behavior that comes. If you weren't on the session this morning, you can go and watch it. But what I said was that the emotion, remember, is a physiological, neurochemical reaction in the body, something that letting you know that something's going on. From there, what you think about, what you make that mean, creates thoughts. Those thoughts, then taken further and ruminated on, can become a feeling and series of feelings that end up being some sort of a state or a mood. And depending upon what those thoughts are, it'll depend then whether it is something that is good or something that spirals down, right? So in the work that I do in social emotional intelligence, we call this behavioural self-control. So it's what do we do when we experience that initial emotion so that we can navigate it in a healthy way moving forward. All right, so you ready? Grab your pen. We're going to go through these and I'll go a little bit deeper on them. And if you've got questions, I'll be able to jump in the chat and answer those as you're watching this. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to name the emotion. So that's number one. So as I said yesterday, we want to be able to notice it. So to notice it, we need to be mindful. We need to be present. We need to notice that sensation in the body, that physiological clue that's coming in. And then we want to put a label on it. We want to name it, all right? So then we can navigate it. So name the emotion. Now to do that, we need to be able to put it into a sentence that says, I feel, insert whatever that one word is right now, or I am feeling whatever that is right now. So that's the first thing, is to name the emotion. The second thing is to do an audit of your thoughts. So we've got the physiological that's happened. Then comes the psychological. And this is where it can either go off the rails or be navigated in a healthy way. So navigate by doing an audit of your thoughts. So we've done, the first one is name it, which is what am I feeling? And the second one is what am I thinking? So by doing an audit of your thoughts, you're able to challenge those thoughts when it's facts, not in evidence. And this is where we develop our competency, our skill in being able to navigate our emotions in a healthy way by continually practicing this. Because it's not about you learnt this today, everything's going to go fine. Because you've learnt to do it this way for many, many years. And you're conditioned. Your brain has conditioned itself a certain way that when this happens, you normally do this. So it's about incrementally changing your thoughts, incrementally changing your strategies, and implementing this strategy that I'm giving you of behavioural self-control. All right, so we've named the emotion. We've done an audit of the thoughts and said, what am I thinking right now? And then challenge that. And I'll give you a practical example of this shortly. The third thing is to ask a question, and that is, what is the outcome that I want here? Or what do I want to happen? One of the reasons why we end up ending up anywhere is that we don't make a decision where we want to go. Now, the reason this is the number 3 and it's not up front is that by naming the emotion and doing an audit on the thoughts, the physiological and the psychological state that we're in is now more conducive to working from the prefrontal cortex, not from deep in the limbic system. So what do I want to happen here? And choose where you want to navigate to. Now, it's just like going on a road trip. If you just take off in the car and you go, I'll just go somewhere, you're going to end up anywhere. But by choosing where you want to go and making that choice filtered through and through the lens of healthy thoughts and inner dialogue, then your prefrontal cortex will be able to help you to regulate what happens from there on in to get you there. The 4th thing that you want to do is ask yourself the question, what could I do to sabotage this right now? All right, that could be what could I do or say right now to sabotage this? So what you're doing is you're looking at it and going, okay, this is where I said I want to go. That's the outcome I want. And now I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to do the stuff that I would normally do. So what could I do or say right now that would sabotage? So it's all about controlling that sabotage and being, mindful and aware of what you normally do. And then number 5 is to choose a strategy. So choosing a strategy is about, okay, I've identified where I want to go. I've identified the roadblocks that could get in the way. What I want to do now is go, how am I going to get there? So by doing this, by asking yourself, what am I going to do to get there? You have clear steps that you need to take. All right, so let me just step back so that we can have a look at this. So there's that 5-step process of being able to then regulate the behavior, of being able to navigate through the emotion in a healthy way. So we've got name the emotion. We've got audit the thoughts, right? Audit your thoughts. We've got decide the outcome. We've then got control the sabotage, and we've got choose the strategy. Now, what I want to do is just help you to understand something that happened in that process as well. So the reason why that works really well, and by the way, it's not something you have to carry around on a palm card for too long, over a period of time, because it happens like that. You will condition your brain to ask those questions in that process in the moment, right? The questions that you ask, and I love this, right? They're all what questions. Or you could even use a how question rather than why. You see, when you ask a what question, you are looking for logic. Therefore, the logical processes in your brain are lit up and they're working. When you ask a why question, it invokes more emotion. So why is this happening? Why did they say that? Why did I do that? Why do I always do these things? Whatever. That's going to create a state of overwhelm. It's going to create a state that's not going to be conducive for you feeling good about yourself or others or both. Therefore, your behavior is going to be more of an emotional reaction rather than a logical response. All right, so that's really, really important to understand some of the neuroscience that works behind that as well. All right, so let me give you an example. The first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we understand what triggers us into, these behaviors. And I'd love you to just write down in the chat box as well as we go along some of these things. But for me, one of the biggest triggers of poor behavior, even still today, is traffic, right? So I can go from mild-mannered Eric Banner to the Incredible Hulk just like that when I hit a traffic jam. So why is that? Let me just take you through it. So let's say I'm heading off to work with a client, someone that I'm seeing, and I hit the traffic jam. See, it's not what happens, it's what you make it mean. So if I hit the traffic jam, it means I'm going to be late getting to that person. Therefore, they're going to think that I'm not reliable. They're going to think less than of me. And in fact, they're not even going to like me. So the dialogue that I had there, the conversation I had, spiraled down, and it challenges and works towards those three universal fears: the fear of not belonging, the fear of not being enough, and the fear of not being loved. So when those fears are challenged, the initial thing that happens can go into, your brain going into overdrive, my brain going into overdrive, and then my behavior comes out of that, not the fact that I've just come up behind a car in front of me. So being able to recognize what goes on. And for me, I normally grasp the steering wheel a little bit tighter and, oh my gosh, And by the way, I do this way differently these days, and I'm still very mindful of it. And it happens way less. But I used to do things like, if I'm 3 cars behind the person at the red light, and for some reason, when that goes green, they don't move, and because they're on their phone or eating their cereal or whatever people do in the traffic of the morning, and the light goes, they wake up and go, oh, okay, they go through, and then the light changes again and no one else gets through except them. So when they stop and they're still there, I would say crazy things like, haven't we got a color you like? Now, by the way, they can't hear me. They're 3 cars ahead of me, my window's closed and so's theirs, but I can hear me. So immediately it's putting me in that state. Now, by the way, before you start judging me, some of you do it as well. And what I want you to do is, as I'm telling my story to be vulnerable and help you, I want you to put yours in there, things that trigger you. So being able to stop in the moment and go, hang on a minute, Grant, what are you feeling, right? And name that emotion and be able to have an acknowledgement of it and notice it and be okay with that is the start, as I said. Well, I'm feeling a little bit annoyed, and being able to recognize that, right? So then audit the thoughts. Well, why am I feeling annoyed? What am I thinking? Asking myself that question. Well, I'm thinking that if I get down there and I'm late and blah, 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 as I said before, then depending on, where I am with that, I'm able to go, okay, well, hang on a minute. That's not what's going to happen, right? And I can rationalize that in my logical brain processes and switch it off. Go back to, more positive dialogue. So what am I thinking? Do that audit, challenge that, and continue from there. Well, what do I want to happen? What do I want the outcome to be? Well, I want to get to where I'm going, and I want to be feeling in a state that I can serve and do the, best that I can do for that client. As opposed to getting down there all agitated and, frustrated because it was traffic and this, that, and the other, and all these thoughts going on, and I don't do a great job anyway. So those things that I feared would happen because I was late, they could still come to pass because of the way that I worked when I got there. So what I want to happen is I want to get there. So the next question is, what could I do or say right now to sabotage getting there? Well, I could end up in a road rage situation. I could cause an accident. I could, whatever it is, I could, get myself in a state where I'm not able to do what I need to do when I get there. So by me allowing that thought pattern to continue, that's one thing. By me verbalizing things, by me saying things that aren't true, entering facts that aren't in evidence. And they're the sabotages that I could normally do. By gripping the steering wheel, by feeling or doing things that create a state within me. Right? And then, number 5, to choose a strategy. Simple strategy. Hey, Joe, just stuck in a little bit of traffic. I'm probably still going to get there on time, but just wanted to let you know out of courtesy that I could be 5 or 10 minutes late. Is that okay? Yeah, Grant, that's fine. Not a problem at all. Just buzz me when you get here. So by going through a process of naming the emotion, auditing the thoughts, and working out where I want to go and controlling that sabotage, I was able to do something that helped rather than hindered. It gave me the result that I wanted rather than let me spiral off into feelings and a state which weren't going to help me. So there's a lot in that, right? But I wanted you to have that strategy. And I just want to reiterate that this is not something that you've got to, go through and carry around and go, oh, hang on a minute, let me just ask myself the first question and the next question. Initially, you're going to be doing that. But over a period of time, your brain will be conditioned to go through that process unconsciously at any given moment and be able to then help you to notice, name, and navigate the emotions that you're going through and navigate them in a healthy way. Remember, as I said, there's no such thing as a positive or negative emotion. There's only a positive or negative response to it. And you have the ability to be able to, change what it is that happens in those particular situations. So that on top of building the platform around your personal power, around your own identity, of working on whether it's, yourself or working with a coach or, for those of you joining me tomorrow, I know we'll be going through some of this stuff for you to be able to build that identity, to work out where these beliefs have come from that even allow you to fear that you're not good enough, that you don't belong and you're not loved. For me, I formed an opinion that I wasn't loved when I was around, 15. And I had a pity party for the next 25 years. And I thought I wasn't lovable, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. So being able to work on that platform first of why it is. And our speakers today have given you a number of things that you can do there. And obviously, it's not all going to happen in a one-day summit. This is a journey of continual improvement that I'll be going on, just like everybody else, until the day that I leave the earth. And working on that is vitally important. And hopefully this strategy that I've given you in this session, firstly from Kyle's book around, Hugh Van Cuylenberg's book around gratitude, empathy and mindfulness will help you. I just love that perspective. And I hope me, throwing that extra little bit in from his book that I'm very grateful for has helped you as well. And being able to go through, as I said, that strategy, that 5-step process, asking logical questions to help you to behave differently when things happen around you. Well, I could go on all night because I love this and I love what I do and I love to serve and I love having conversations with people all around the world because this has been a major part of my life, a major part of my experience as a human being, learning this stuff and being able to implement it, a day at a time, an hour at a time, a minute at a time, so that it becomes my new normal. So as we're finishing, I want us to take those words, new normal. And I want you to understand that your new normal has got nothing to do with a pandemic or a conflict or anything else that's going on in the world right now. Your new normal is what you do differently moving forward from today. So as we are coming to a close, I want to thank every single one of you for being here. I'm grateful that people turned up. Otherwise, there's no need to put this thing on, right? I'm forever grateful to our amazing speakers who have stepped up and have served and have given you this experience from their knowledge. You know, none of them took anything from this to do this. They just stepped up to serve. And I really would love to see some gratitude coming through in the chat for those people. And by the way, you know, if there's something that they said that really helped you and there's things you want to know more, please connect with those speakers if it's appropriate, and you know, have a look at what they do, and certainly I'm sure that if it's a right fit, they'll be able to help you. I find it an absolute privilege to do what it is that I get to do, and it was all birthed out of my own you know, insecurities and low identity, low self-worth, low personal power. My journey led me to a point where I took this thing seriously called emotional intelligence and social intelligence. You know, to the point where now I speak about it, I work with people, I train and develop people all around the world, and I even train and certify and mentor other coaches and trainers and speakers all around the world in this same message. And I've been getting a lot of messages, you know, people hitting reply to the emails when they were asked, you know, what was it they wanted to get out of the summit. A lot of people were talking about, you know, I want to become a coach and I want to do this and whatever. And this summit, as I said, was not about that. However, I will put on some sort of a, you know, we'll jump on Zoom for those who are interested, and I'll send out an email to everyone and step through that and tell you what it's all about and how you can, if that's something that you want to do. But all good things must come to an end, and this summit is no different. So 2022, the Emotional Intelligence Online Summit, we bring it to a close, and I would love to have everybody who you know, has been on the summit. I'd love to have you hit reply on the emails or in the online course that you were given as a bonus as part of this, in the comments. That's probably the best place to do it, is to jump in there and you know, let me know how this journey has changed your life. And you know, that's why I love this so much. I know that today lives were changed, and one of those was mine. I grow every time I go through my own stuff, right? But for me, being able to serve you in this way is a part of my journey, and it's a part of my growth. And I know by the emails that keep coming in from, you know, last year's summit still and the year before, that those people who take the little things that they learnt and they go and utilize them straight away and put them into their life get a lot out of this. You see, all the information by these amazing speakers is of no value unless you use it. Information itself can actually be frustrating if you know more and you don't do anything with it than implementation, which is where the results come. So what is it? And I'd love those who can join me in this to jump in the chat and let me know, what's the one thing, the big insight that you're going to take away from this summit? What's one thing that you're going to do differently, think differently moving forward that you learnt by going through this summit? I'd really, really love to do that. We're going to do this again next year. All right. I was thinking about whether I was going to, and I'm a man of integrity. So now I've said it. So we're going to do this again next year. So I'd also love to get any feedback. You know, what did you love? What did you think we could do differently? This is the first time that I've ever done this in this way. Right. So I used to do it live in person. We went and did a couple of years of online in live sessions and heaps of technical problems and what have you, and people up in the middle of the night or not being able to attend, to this model now where the speakers are pre-recorded but the chat's live. And I'd love to know about that experience, because we want to do what's best, you know, for us and for you moving forward. I think this has been a huge success based on what's gone on today. And I look forward to tweaking and adjusting where we need to. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. good night, good evening, good morning, whatever it is for you, wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy being who it is you were created to be without worrying about what others expect you to be. I'll see you again real soon.